You're listening to Unmuted with Papamutes.
Very small subsect of craft brewers that are going to drink that 17% beer. I mean, that's beyond a sipper. So the highest we've done is 9%. Yeah, that's a weapon. That is a put on your PJs and call it a night.
You're listening to a Papamutes Unmuted podcast.
I want to welcome to the podcast a friend of mine. He's a beer man, a man's man, official head brewer of Wissahickon Brewery in Philadelphia, Luke Gill. Welcome, Luke.
Thank you, Papamutes. I am very glad to be here.
Good to have you. Now, I'll tell you right off the bat, I have a beer in front of me from the brewery. Do you have one in front of you?
I do.
What do you have?
I have a new beer we just packaged called Kookaburra.
I saw that. I think you were promoting it on Instagram, right?
Yes, just started promoting it either yesterday or today. All the days kind of blend together.
I hear you. Well, let's see if you can guess what I have. I'll give you a couple hints. It's 6%. It's described on the can as a Belgium-style ale. It could be called, if you were to change the name, Vagabond or Drifter.
Okay.
Or Nomad.
That's actually another good beer name.
Right, I do like that.
We might have to go for that one for the next round, but if I had to take a shot in the dark, I would say that is Gypsy.
You are correct. Correcto mundo. Gypsy juice.
You had me at 6%.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to crack this bad boy open, if you don't mind. Hold on.
Please do.
Oh, Jesus. All right, let me take a swig.
Crack there.
Yeah. Got a little messy here. Let me take a swig. Hold on. Oh, yeah. That's dangerous.
That's the good stuff?
That's good. Nothing like smell of hops in the evening.
That's right. And we actually just canned a fresh batch of that today.
Well, nice. It's good. Never had it. I was going through the other stuff.
It's a little bit lighter than the triple citrus.
Triple cit.
So
everything's lighter than that.
Yeah, you don't get much more bold than that beer. But most people don't know that Gypsy was actually a mess-up beer of triple citrus. We had tried to brew triple citrus. The alcohol level came out so low that you couldn't try to convince the consumer that a 6% is a 9% or vice versa. So the beer still tasted great, and it had all the same flavor profile of the triple citrus, which we knew was a good seller. So we looked for some inspiration for a name, and actually the street right above the brewery is called Gypsy Lane, and it's well known within East Falls. And now it's our top 3 bestseller all time.
Nice. Now there's a lot of beer there, or that you brew that are named after locations around the brewery. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we actually drew the name Wissahickon Brewing Company. When we started home brewing 10 plus years ago, maybe. I think that was the story when we opened the brewery 4 years ago. So it's probably almost 15 years ago we started home brewing. And when we figured out that we were going to take a stab at going professional and commercial, we still don't consider ourselves professional, nor do we act it. But we wanted a name that would resonate with Philadelphia, and especially Northwest Philadelphia, where I grew up and where the brewery is positioned. And we thought of Gill Brews or Gill Bros or the Gill Boys.
Gill Bros, I like that.
Gill Bros. Mom and Dad weren't too fond of those. So my dad got his master's at Temple for marketing and promotions, and he suggested Wissahickon, and it's where we went hiking growing up. And I guess me and my 3 siblings had too much energy, my parents would take us there to hike and feed the ducks, breadcrumbs, and just a name that's kind of hard to say, but it's also recognizable. So if anyone's been through Philadelphia or hiked this way, it's kind of a suburban oasis for hiking, and it's a name that's memorable and kind of resonates with Philadelphia and afar. So we wanted to go that route with also naming some of our beers, again, because you can you can say, oh, I drove on that street, or I live on that street, or I used to go to that deli, or I used to, hike to that landmark. And they're all things that just kind of, make you raise your eyebrow, and they put like a more human aspect and more of an experiential perspective on the beer name. And it's not just a beer name that, we went on Google and we went on thesaurus.com.
Right.
It was something that we could actually draw a story from. And a lot of times the beer is named after a landmark that may be, for example, Kelpius Cave, which is one of our Belgians. It's named after Johannes Kelpius, which was a monk. And we use ingredients that he would have used. He was an apothecary in the Wissahickon. So we use ingredients that he may have used when he was, an apothecary living in a cave in the Wissahickon. So every kind of beer that we do, we try to build a story behind it, which kind of means more for the consumer, and it's more fun for us to brew.
Sure. Now, just to back up, as you said, it started at home, and if I remember correctly, it was a gift for your dad or something along those lines?
Yes.
How'd that go?
Yes. My older brother, Tim, he bought a homebrew kit for my dad, and I was under 21 at the time. I was in my teens, and it just seemed like a fun hobby. I can, hand to God say that I never drank, in high school. I guess I was too involved. I was too involved in sports, and I guess or too strict of parents, or a combo of the both. But it was just a fun hobby at first, and then when I got closer to the drinking age and I started experiencing craft beer, I kind of was drawn to the process of brewing it and the culture behind craft beer. And then that expands from the malt and hop growers all the way to the producers of craft beer, the sellers of craft beer, and it's just such an inclusive environment. And it really kind of picked up when I was at Penn State.
Yeah.
And soon afterwards, we really picked up our recipe formulation and really started focusing on what do people really like to drink, and we started giving it to anyone who would drink it. And if they drank it and smiled and said, brew more, we would. And if they went to the bathroom and came back with an empty glass, we knew the toilet drank that beer. That was a recipe we would throw out. But it started out of a 5-gallon bucket, and now we have tanks that hold 975 gallons. So it's been a big jump, but it's been a lot of fun.
Now, the family, I know, but for the people listening, it's you, obviously, mom, dad. Who else is involved?
So my little brother, Pete.
Pete. He's
handles
the good-looking one, right?
He's the most handsome, and he's always been that way, which is kind of frustrating.
I'm just kidding.
And he knows he has the best beard. Pete has the best beard in the family, and his metabolism still hasn't slowed down. So he's been very, very fortunate in that way.
After a few beers, everybody looks good.
Exactly, right. It all kind of evens out. There are a couple triple citruses, that's for sure. So Pete is involved as a full-timer. I am a full-timer. My older brother, Tim, is full-time, and then my dad is full-time. So 4 of the 6 Gills, 6 grew up in my family. So I also have a sister, Megan, and she handles our HR, and she does our scheduling. And she's also, gives the thumbs up or the thumbs down on some beers. And then my mother, the queen bee, Lisa, she also helps out with, recipe formulation and inspiration on beers. And she's been there since day one with a paintbrush. She's our interior designer. And, she kind of keeps us all in check.
Mm-hmm. Now, the building itself wasn't always a brewery. It was had something to do with cabs or garage for cabs or something?
Yes, it was the most recent was an ambulance repair dispatch center.
Oh, okay.
So
Close.
It would repair the ambulance, and then when someone called, you would dispatch from there. And so it was a cab in some sorts. Maybe the people that it was a cab you didn't want to be riding in. But
True, right? Exactly.
But the warehouse was definitely in disarray when we started renting this in 2016. It was May of 2016. We secured the lease, and it's almost hard to remember how it looked. Luckily, we took a lot of photos, and the before and after are great.
No, it looks great.
And we've heard from a lot of East Falls residents, how it's really been a big facelift for that part of East Falls. It was such an eyesore driving past every day because there were rusty carburetors and engine parts and, broken down ambulance, and no one really likes to see an ambulance unless you really need one. And